Have you ever noticed how the people who speak the least often command the most attention? It's strange, isn't it? We live in an age where everyone is shouting, broadcasting, posting, and trying to stand out in the loudest possible way. And yet, when someone enters the room quietly, calmly, without making a scene, somehow, all eyes shift to them. Their presence lingers, their energy fills the air, and people can't help but wonder, what is it about this person? That, right there, is the power of silent attractiveness. Silent attractiveness isn't about being the life of the party or dazzling everyone with witty jokes and perfect timing. It's not about wearing flashy clothes or announcing your accomplishments. It's something deeper, something that comes from within. It's the calm confidence of someone who knows who they are, the steady assurance of someone who doesn't need external applause to feel valuable, and the subtle grace of someone who doesn't have to say much to be remembered. This kind of magnetism is timeless. And yet in our modern age where noise dominates every corner of our lives, it feels almost revolutionary. Now, imagine if you could cultivate that quality for yourself. Imagine walking into any situation, whether it's a workplace meeting, a family gathering, or even just a casual social event, and without trying to grab attention, you simply become the person others are drawn to. Not because you're loud, but because you're grounded. Not because you're showing off, but because you're authentic. Doesn't that sound powerful? That's exactly what we're exploring in this video. We're diving deep into what I call the silent laws of attraction, the habits, the practices, and the philosophies that make someone quietly magnetic. These are not quick hacks or superficial tricks. They're lessons rooted in Stoicism, sharpened by life experience, and proven by the way people respond to authenticity. Over the next hour, I'm going to take you on a journey through 11 habits that, when woven together, transform how others see you and, more importantly, how you see yourself. We'll talk about what it means to live with authentic independence, why elegance doesn't require extravagance, how subtle sophistication in the smallest details leaves a powerful impression, and why being fully present might be the rarest superpower in today's distracted world. We'll uncover the value of mystery and depth, the richness that comes with cultural wisdom, the life-changing strength of compassion, and the joy of laughter even in hard times. We'll break down why self-care is not selfish but essential, how emotional intelligence shapes your relationships, and why consistency day after day, year after year is the glue that holds all of it together. But before we get started, I need to ask something of you. If you find value in what we're about to uncover, if you enjoy exploring philosophy not as something abstract, but as a practical tool for living, please support this channel. Hit the like button so more people can discover these ideas. Subscribe so you never miss another video in this series. And if you'd like to go a step further, you can use the super thanks button below to donate and help me keep creating content like this. Every like, every share, every donation, no matter how small, helps me bring more of these deep dive explorations to you. Now let me pose a question. Why are we so drawn to people who don't try to impress us? Think about that for a moment. Why do we lean in closer when someone speaks softly instead of loudly? Why do we remember the one person at a party who asked us a thoughtful question, rather than the 10 who bragged about their lives? The answer is simple but profound. We are wired to crave authenticity. We can sense when someone is putting on a performance, and we can sense when someone is real. Silent attractiveness is real. It's not a costume, not an act. It's the art of becoming fully yourself, and letting that quiet confidence speak louder than any performance ever could. So, in this video, don't expect me to give you cheesy lines, manipulative tricks, or empty life hacks. Instead, we're going to peel back the layers of what makes people truly magnetic. By the time we reach the end, you'll see that silent attractiveness isn't about chasing attention. It's about cultivating presence, wisdom, and integrity until attention naturally finds you. And once you taste that power, you'll never want to go back to the noise. So, stick with me. Grab a notebook if you want, because the insights we're about to dive into are worth reflecting on. Let's step together into this quiet revolution, and learn how to master the habits that make you not just attractive, but unforgettable. And again, don't forget, if this resonates with you, hit like, click subscribe, and consider supporting with super thanks so we can keep building this community of thinkers, learners, and seekers who believe in living with depth rather than noise. Silent attractiveness is one of those qualities that almost everyone has felt at some point in life, but few can explain clearly. You meet someone who doesn't try to be flashy, doesn't raise their voice, doesn't wear clothes that scream for attention, and yet the moment they walk into a room there's a shift. People notice them without knowing why. That quiet magnetism comes not from external performance but from something deeper in alignment between who they are inside and how they carry themselves in the world. It's the opposite of the noisy, overexposed way that modern culture often teaches us to seek attention. In today's world, where social media rewards loudness and exaggeration, this kind of silent pull is rare and therefore even more powerful. To understand why this quality matters now more than ever, it helps to consider the nature of the age we live in. We are surrounded by noise, literal noise from our devices, constant notifications, endless chatter online, and metaphorical noise from the pressure to brand ourselves, to present a polished version of who we are. In such a climate, being quietly self-assured becomes almost revolutionary. When someone radiates calm confidence instead of competing for attention, they stand out precisely because they're not trying to. In a way, silence has become the new luxury. It signals that you are not desperate for validation, not chasing after approval, but anchored in yourself. People are drawn to that kind of steadiness because deep down we all crave it. We long for something solid. Someone who doesn't need the spotlight to know their own worth. This idea of silent attractiveness is not new. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece and Rome understood that true influence comes not from shouting your values but from living them. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor often called the philosopher king, wrote in his private journals, later known as Meditations, that a good man does not argue about what a good man should be. He simply becomes one. That principle is at the heart of silent attractiveness. You do not need to announce your strength or broadcast your wisdom. You embody it quietly in the way you live. And others can sense it without a word. Epictetus, once a slave who became a teacher of Stoicism, reminded his students that it is not what happens to you but how you respond that defines you. That perspective creates a kind of inner poise, a composure that can be felt in silence. Why do modern people need this kind of silent power more than ever? Because we live in a society obsessed with noise, distraction, and appearance. Think about how Instagram, TikTok, and even everyday office culture reward those who make the biggest splash. Yet many of us also feel exhausted by this race for attention. We are tired of people oversharing, exaggerating, or posturing. When you encounter someone who doesn't play that game, who doesn't feel the need to constantly advertise themselves, it is refreshing. It feels authentic in a world where authenticity is in short supply. That's why silent attractiveness works. It's a counterbalance to the chaos. It is the quiet assurance that you don't need to prove anything because you already know who you are. Take an everyday example. Imagine two co-workers starting at a new company. One tries to impress everyone by speaking in every meeting, volunteering loudly for every task, dropping hints about their achievements. The other listens carefully, speaks only when they have something valuable to add, and carries themselves with calm professionalism. After a few weeks, it's the second person who has earned more genuine respect. Their quiet confidence signals reliability and self-respect. They don't drain attention, they stabilize the environment. That is silent attractiveness at work in ordinary life. Stoicism provides the philosophical foundation for this approach. Unlike many philosophies that focus on abstract speculation, Stoicism is intensely practical. It teaches that the good life is found not in external recognition but in internal mastery of one's desires, fears, impulses, and judgments. The Stoics believe that external events are beyond our control, but our response to them is always within our power. This shift of focus from outer noise to inner stability is exactly what makes someone silently attractive. When you are not tossed around by every opinion, not enslaved to the desire for applause, you radiate something rare: equanimity. In a culture that often confuses loudness with strength, Stoicism reminds us that true strength is quiet. Marcus Aurelius did not need to boast of his authority. The Roman legions already followed him. His concern was whether he ruled himself as firmly as he ruled others. Seneca, another great Stoic, warned against wasting time chasing status or wealth at the expense of inner peace. These lessons translate seamlessly into modern life. A person who has cultivated silent attractiveness doesn't need to post their every success online. They don't need to dominate conversations. Their presence speaks for them, because they are aligned with their values and comfortable in their own skin. Think about your own experiences. Who are the people you remember most fondly? Often it's not the loudest friend at the party or the coworker always talking about their wins. It's the person who listened when you needed it, who carried themselves with quiet assurance, who didn't need to one-up you to feel secure. Silent attractiveness is felt in the subtle things, the calm tone of voice, the way someone gives you their full attention, the ease with which they occupy space without trying to dominate it. These qualities don't just draw others in, they create trust. That trust is vital, and it grows from consistency. People sense when you are putting on a performance versus when you are genuinely grounded. Silent attractiveness is never about faking calm, it comes from cultivating it. That's why Stoic habits are so important. They are not quick tricks but practices that shape your character over time. Just as an athlete trains muscles until strength becomes second nature, the Stoic trains their mind and heart until composure and integrity become natural. The attraction others feel is simply a byproduct of that inner training. The journey of silent attractiveness can be broken into specific habits, timeless principles that anyone can practice. They range from independence of mind to compassion for others, from elegance in small gestures to reliability over time. Each habit on its own adds a piece to the puzzle, but together they form a powerful presence that requires no words. We might call them the 11 habits of socially attractive people, drawn from Stoic wisdom and tested by human experience across centuries. The first habit is authentic independence, the ability to stand firm without needing external validation. The second is silent elegance, the grace in how you carry yourself. The third is subtle sophistication, attention to detail in self-care and presence. The fourth is being fully present, a rare gift in our distracted age. The fifth is cultivating mystery, allowing space for others to discover you gradually. The sixth is cultural wisdom, the richness that comes from learning widely. The seventh is compassion, quiet kindness that expects nothing in return. The eighth is laughter and joy, the strength to face life with humor. The ninth is self-care, the silent message that you value yourself. The 10th is emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and respond thoughtfully to others. The 11th is consistency and reliability, the steady trustworthiness that people admire deeply. Taken together, these habits form the map of a life that is both attractive and meaningful. They are not about chasing attention but about living so fully and authentically that attention naturally comes. Silent attractiveness is, at its core, about living Stoicism, focusing on what you can control, carrying yourself with dignity, and letting your actions speak louder than your words. In a world that seems to shout constantly, the quiet voice of true character is what people are desperate to hear even if it's never spoken aloud. Authentic independence is one of those qualities that people immediately recognize even if they cannot define it. It is not arrogance, it is not withdrawal from society, and it is not the lonely pride of someone who pretends not to need others. Authentic independence is built on the foundation of self-respect and inner clarity. It means you are able to live according to your own values, guided by principles you have examined and chosen, rather than being blown around by what others think you should do. In a modern context, this independence is rare because so much of daily life is shaped by comparison and external approval. Social media amplifies this by creating an endless scoreboard of likes, followers, and curated images. Many people unconsciously measure their worth by how many people validate them. In contrast, a person who is genuinely independent carries themselves differently. They do not broadcast every move, they do not chase every trend, and they do not fear missing out. Their sense of direction comes from within. When someone lives with authentic independence, others feel it even without words. Think of the coworker who does not join every office gossip session yet still commands respect. Or the student who does not conform to peer pressure but is not hostile either. Their calm refusal to be defined by external noise creates a kind of gravity. People are drawn to them not because they beg for attention but because they radiate self-assurance. This is not an easy quality to build. It requires moments of solitude, of asking yourself what really matters, of facing the discomfort of going against the grain. Independence sometimes means standing alone in your choices, but the strength that comes from it is magnetic. A good example is when you decide on a career path. Many people are swayed by parental expectations, peer influence, or the prestige attached to a certain profession. Authentic independence means you weigh those influences but ultimately make the choice based on your own values and sense of purpose. If you value creativity over stability, you might pursue design instead of accounting. If you value service over recognition, you might become a teacher even when your friends chase higher-paying jobs. People might question your choice, but if you remain steady and find fulfillment in it, that steadiness speaks volumes. Over time, others begin to respect not only your path but the courage it took to walk it. That is the magnetism of independence. It inspires without trying to. Authentic independence also shows up in relationships. Many individuals feel incomplete without constant validation from a partner or friend group. They seek to fill gaps in their self-worth by leaning heavily on others. But when you cultivate independence, you are whole on your own. This does not mean you don't value relationships. It means your relationships are built on choice rather than neediness. When you are not desperate for approval, you can connect with others more freely. Because you are not using them to fill a void, people sense the difference. They admire the quiet strength of someone who can be alone without being lonely. Someone who can love without clinging. From authentic independence flows silent elegance, which is the outward expression of inner steadiness. Silent elegance is not about wealth, fashion brands, or glamorous appearances. It is about the way you carry yourself in daily life. You could be wearing simple clothes, yet your posture, your calm manner of speaking, and the way you listen with full attention can make you more striking than someone draped in designer labels. Silent elegance is rooted in composure. It is revealed in the way you walk into a room without rushing, the way you greet people with eye contact, the way your movements are deliberate rather than frantic. This elegance is not loud, it whispers strength. In a practical sense, silent elegance shows up in body language. Imagine two people entering a meeting. One fumbles with their notes, taps their feet nervously, avoids eye contact, and speaks too quickly. The other walks in upright, sits calmly, listens carefully, and speaks with measured tone. Both may have the same knowledge, but one radiates composure while the other radiates insecurity. Silent elegance makes the difference. It communicates confidence without arrogance, and people pick up on it instantly. This doesn't require a special talent, it requires awareness. How do you hold yourself? Do you allow nervous habits to control your presence? Or do you train yourself to be calm, grounded, and intentional? Silent elegance also lives in small acts of respect. Saying hello sincerely, remembering someone's name, listening without interrupting, putting your phone away when others are speaking. These simple behaviors reflect refinement. They are subtle, but people notice them. In fact, they often leave a stronger impression than big gestures. Think about the last time someone listened to you without distraction. You likely felt seen and valued. That is elegance in practice. And it is silent because it doesn't demand attention but earns it naturally. When you combine authentic independence with silent elegance, the result is a powerful presence that draws people in. Independence provides the inner foundation. You are guided by your own compass, not the shifting winds of opinion. Elegance provides the outer expression. You move and interact with calm assurance. Together they form the roots of silent attractiveness. People cannot always explain why they admire you, but they feel it. They sense that you are both strong and graceful, firm yet approachable. Everyday life provides countless examples of this combination. Consider a teacher who is firm in their standards but kind in their demeanor. Students respect them not because they shout but because they consistently live their values with dignity. Consider a nurse in a busy hospital who moves quickly but calmly, never panicking, always treating patients with gentle respect. Their quiet steadiness inspires confidence in both patients and colleagues. Or think about a parent who disciplines without yelling, who sets boundaries without harshness. Their independence of judgment and elegant composure build trust in their children more than lectures ever could. Another example comes from public figures. Some leaders speak constantly, promising loudly, trying to dominate every headline. Others speak less, but when they do, their words carry weight because they are backed by consistency and calm authority. Nelson Mandela was known for his quiet dignity. He didn't need to boast or intimidate. His presence alone inspired trust. That is silent elegance rooted in authentic independence. It's worth noting that independence and elegance are practices, not permanent traits. They can be cultivated. You start by reflecting on your values. Ask yourself what truly matters to you. Write it down. Compare your daily actions with those values. Where do you compromise just to please others? Where can you choose more authentically? Independence grows each time you make choices aligned with your inner compass instead of external pressure. Elegance grows each time you choose to slow down, breathe, and act with calm intentionality instead of reacting impulsively. Together, these habits create a presence that is magnetic not because it is loud but because it is grounded. In a world filled with noise and performance, authentic independence and silent elegance are like clear water in the desert, rare, refreshing, and deeply attractive. People crave it, even if they cannot articulate why. And the beauty is that you do not need to be perfect to embody it. You just need to practice self-respect, carry yourself with composure, and let your actions quietly speak for who you are. Over time, this combination becomes second nature, and you will notice that people respond to you differently. They lean in, they listen more carefully, and they trust you without needing constant persuasion. That is the foundation of silent attractiveness. And it begins with the inner strength of independence and the outer grace of elegance. Subtle sophistication is one of those qualities that doesn't shout but lingers. It's not about being perfect or wealthy or even fashionable in the loud sense. It's about the quiet details that tell the world you respect yourself and value the space you occupy. A well-chosen fragrance, the simple act of being well-groomed, the way your shirt is ironed, or the cleanliness of your shoes. These small cues communicate refinement without a single word. People may not consciously notice every detail, but subconsciously they register it, and it shapes their impression of you. Imagine stepping into an elevator. Two people stand side by side. One looks disheveled, smells faintly of neglect, and avoids eye contact. The other wears something simple yet clean, carries a subtle scent that feels fresh but not overpowering, and stands upright with ease. Who do you think leaves a stronger impression in just 10 seconds? That is subtle sophistication at work. In everyday life, subtle sophistication is not about vanity, it's about care. When someone pays attention to detail, it communicates discipline, self-respect, and consideration for others. A friend who always shows up on time, who remembers the small details of what you said weeks ago, demonstrates a kind of refinement that goes beyond surface appearances. It's the same in professional settings. A colleague who sends an email with clear structure, free of sloppy errors, demonstrates that they value clarity and your time. These things may sound trivial, but they are the very things that separate someone forgettable from someone memorable. One of the most overlooked aspects of subtle sophistication is scent, not the overwhelming kind that fills a room, but a hint of something that matches your personality. Humans have a strong memory for smell, and often we remember people not by what they said but by how they made us feel in their presence. And scent is a major part of that. A subtle woody or fresh fragrance can make someone think of calmness, trust, or energy. It is not about buying the most expensive cologne or perfume. It is about finding something that quietly reinforces the energy you want to project. Think of it like the soundtrack to a movie. If it's too loud, it ruins the scene. But if it's perfectly balanced, it makes everything else more powerful. Equally important is being fully present. If subtle sophistication speaks through details, presence speaks through energy. In a distracted world, being fully present is one of the rarest and most attractive qualities you can cultivate. Everyone has had the experience of talking to someone who is nodding but clearly scrolling on their phone or rehearsing what they will say next. You walk away from that conversation feeling invisible. On the other hand, when someone gives you their full attention, looking you in the eye, listening not just to your words but to the emotion behind them, it feels unforgettable. You don't just feel heard, you feel valued. That feeling is magnetic. Being fully present requires training the mind. Stoic philosophy emphasized confining oneself to the present moment, not being lost in regrets about the past or anxieties about the future. In practice, this means slowing down and giving yourself permission to focus on what is directly in front of you. When you are in a conversation, you resist the urge to mentally draft your next response. Instead, you allow silence if needed. You notice tone, pauses, and body language. You treat the other person not as a background character in your life but as the main character in that moment. The result is connection. In daily life, examples of presence are everywhere. Consider a doctor who walks into a room with a patient. If the doctor is rushing, glancing at the clock, and typing into their laptop while the patient speaks, the patient feels dismissed. If the doctor stops, looks the patient in the eye, listens carefully, and repeats back what they heard before offering guidance, the patient feels trust. The medical knowledge may be the same, but the impact is completely different. Or think about a teacher in a classroom. A student asks a question hesitantly. A teacher who brushes it off quickly sends the message that the student doesn't matter. A teacher who leans in, takes time to answer thoughtfully, creates a lasting impression of respect. Presence costs nothing but attention, and yet it has the power to build loyalty, admiration, and deep connection. Presence also extends beyond conversations. When you eat, are you really tasting your food or just scrolling through your phone at the same time? When you walk down the street, are you noticing the air, the trees, the rhythm of your steps, or are you mentally elsewhere? Practicing presence in small things strengthens your ability to be present with people. Over time, this habit becomes a natural part of who you are, and others can sense it. They feel calmer around you, because your attention stabilizes the space. The third element that builds on subtle sophistication and presence is mystery and depth. Mystery here is not about playing games or being deliberately confusing. It is about not revealing everything at once. In a culture of oversharing, where people post every meal, every trip, every emotional outburst online, those who maintain some privacy and depth become naturally intriguing. Human beings are wired to be curious. When everything is on display immediately, curiosity dies. When layers are revealed slowly, people remain engaged. Depth comes from cultivating a rich inner life. Someone who reads widely, explores hobbies, thinks deeply about questions, and reflects on experiences develops a layered personality. When you meet them, you sense there is more beneath the surface. Each interaction uncovers a new dimension, a new story, a new insight. That layered quality creates mystery without pretense. It is not about withholding for the sake of control. It is about living so fully that there is always more to discover. Think about the difference between two conversations. In the first, someone tells you their entire life story within the first 5 minutes. Every dramatic detail laid bare. By the end, there is little left to learn. In the second, someone shares selectively just enough to connect, but not so much that everything is exposed. Over time, you discover new aspects about them, their passion for music, their volunteer work, their hidden sense of humor. Each discovery strengthens the bond because it feels earned. That is the allure of mystery. A real-world example is the difference between movies that reveal every plot twist in the trailer and those that keep you guessing. The former may get your initial attention but leave little reason to keep watching. The latter draws you in and sustains your interest because you want to know more. People are the same. When you reveal everything too quickly in search of validation, you rob others of the joy of discovery. When you live with depth, you invite curiosity and respect. Mystery also protects your inner world. Not everyone deserves access to your most personal thoughts, dreams, or struggles. By maintaining healthy boundaries, you preserve your energy and maintain dignity. This doesn't mean you are closed off or unfriendly. It means you are intentional. You decide what to share and when, based on trust and context. People intuitively respect those boundaries because they sense that what you do share carries weight. Together, subtle sophistication, being fully present, and maintaining mystery and depth form what can be called the art of refined living. They create a long-lasting impression because they are qualities felt more than spoken. They do not demand attention but draw it. They make people lean in, listen closely, and remember you long after the moment has passed. These habits are not about crafting an image, they are about cultivating character. They are practices anyone can build, but they require patience and awareness. Over time, they transform the way others see you, and more importantly, the way you see yourself. You begin to notice that you no longer crave noisy validation. You trust the quiet strength of small details. You no longer feel pressured to fill every silence with chatter. Because you understand the power of presence. You no longer feel the need to overshare. Because you trust that your depth speaks for itself. The result is a kind of elegance that lasts. A magnetism that does not fade with trends. It is the subtle sophistication of someone who cares about the details. The presence of someone who truly sees others. And the depth of someone who cannot be reduced to a single glance. That is the essence of this stage of silent attractiveness. And it is why those who embody it continue to draw respect and admiration without ever needing to raise their voices. Cultural wisdom is one of the most underestimated forms of social magnetism. In a world that is increasingly interconnected, people who understand and appreciate different cultures often stand out as more grounded, more thoughtful, and more trustworthy. Cultural wisdom does not mean memorizing a list of facts about other countries or showing off how well-traveled you are. It is about having the openness and humility to learn from perspectives that are not your own. It is the awareness that your way of living, thinking, and interpreting events is just one among many, and that there is value in seeing the world through other lenses. Someone who carries cultural wisdom is able to navigate conversations with grace because they know when to listen, when to share, and when to admit they don't know everything. Think about conversations with people who only know their own bubble. They may dismiss other customs, laugh at accents, or feel uncomfortable when faced with unfamiliar traditions. Now compare that with someone who, even if they haven't traveled much, shows curiosity, respect, and genuine interest when encountering something new. That second person draws people in because they make others feel safe and respected. They can sit down with a stranger from another background and make them feel valued. That kind of ability is deeply attractive. People want to be around those who widen their perspective instead of shrinking it. Real-life examples are easy to find. Consider a manager who oversees a diverse team. One manager might impose their own way of doing things without considering cultural differences, leading to frustration and alienation. Another manager, with cultural wisdom, learns a little about the backgrounds of their employees, asks thoughtful questions, and adjusts communication styles to ensure everyone feels heard. The latter manager creates loyalty and motivation. Employees are not only willing to work for them but to give their best because they feel respected. That is cultural wisdom translating into influence and attraction. Cultural wisdom can also come from literature, art, and history. Reading a novel from a different country, watching films that reflect another culture's values, or studying history from multiple perspectives gives you the depth to engage in meaningful conversations. Imagine a dinner party where someone only talks about the latest celebrity gossip, while another shares an insight from a Japanese novel or lesson they learned from Native American traditions. The second person leaves a lasting impression, not because they tried to impress, but because they brought depth and richness to the table. Depth creates attraction, and cultural wisdom is one of the surest ways to cultivate depth. From wisdom we move to compassion, another quality that makes people unforgettable. Compassion is not about pity or grand gestures, it is about showing up with kindness, listening with sincerity, and offering patience when others fall short. In a world where so many interactions feel transactional, what can you do for me? What can I gain from this compassion is rare and therefore powerful. When someone senses that you are not looking at them as a stepping stone but as a human being, their guard lowers, and trust begins to grow. That trust is one of the most magnetic forces in human relationships. Compassion shows in small, everyday actions. A coworker notices you are overwhelmed and offers to take a small task off your plate. A friend hears the tremor in your voice and asks how you are really doing. A stranger holds the door a second longer because they see you struggling with bags. These acts do not make headlines, but they build bonds. The people who show compassion consistently are remembered long after the details of conversations are forgotten. You may not remember exactly what a kind teacher said to you years ago, but you remember how they made you feel. That memory shapes how you see yourself and how you treat others. Compassion also means resisting the urge to fix everything. When someone shares their struggle, our instinct is often to jump in with advice, solutions, or stories about ourselves. But true compassion is about listening to understand, not listening to respond. Sometimes people don't need answers, they just need to feel heard. Sitting quietly, nodding, repeating back what someone said in your own words, these are acts of compassion that give others the space to process their emotions. Think of the times you've shared something vulnerable and the person on the other side immediately tried to minimize it. It's not that bad. Or, you'll be fine. That kind of response leaves you feeling unseen. Now compare it with the friend who simply says, I hear you. That sounds really hard. You walk away from that exchange feeling supported. That is compassion, and it requires no grand effort, just presence and sincerity. One of the most attractive things about compassion is that it extends not just to others but to yourself. Many people are harsh critics of their own mistakes, beating themselves down for every misstep. But those who practice compassion toward themselves learn patience, forgiveness, and resilience. They don't collapse under pressure because they know how to give themselves grace. This inner compassion reflects outwardly. When you are not consumed by self-criticism, you are freer to extend kindness to others. People sense that safety and are drawn to it. And then there is laughter and joy, which may seem less serious but are equally vital. Stoic philosophy is often misunderstood as grim or overly serious. But the truth is that Stoics valued joy and lightness. They believed that while we cannot control what happens, we can control how we respond, and responding with humor is one of the strongest demonstrations of freedom. Laughter shows that you are not enslaved by circumstances, that you can rise above disappointment, embarrassment, or difficulty with perspective. A person who can laugh at themselves without bitterness radiates confidence. They show others that mistakes do not define them, and that life can be approached with balance. Think of people you enjoy spending time with. Often it's those who bring a sense of humor to ordinary moments. They don't make fun of others cruelly, but they can see the comedy in small frustrations. Getting caught in the rain, spilling coffee on their shirt, missing a train. These are annoyances. But someone with a sense of humor can turn them into shared stories that create connection. Compare that with the person who reacts to every small inconvenience with anger or blame. Who do people prefer to be around? Joy is contagious, and so is bitterness. Silent attractiveness comes from carrying joy in a way that uplifts others without effort. Laughter is also an equalizer. When you share a genuine laugh with someone, barriers dissolve, age, status, and background momentarily disappear. A boss who can laugh with their team creates loyalty. A parent who laughs with their child builds trust. A friend who can laugh with you in dark times becomes unforgettable. Even in serious moments, a light touch of humor can transform tension into relief. It doesn't mean you don't take life seriously. It means you know how to bring balance. These three habits, cultural wisdom, compassion, and laughter, together represent the deeper layers of character that make a person truly magnetic. Cultural wisdom gives breadth. You show that you understand and value the wider human story. Compassion gives warmth. You show that you care for people not as tools but as individuals. Laughter gives lightness. You show that you can rise above hardship and invite others to do the same. Breadth, warmth, and lightness are qualities that endure. People may forget what you wore, what car you drove, or how many followers you had, but they remember if you widened their perspective, if you treated them with kindness, and if you brought joy into their day. These qualities do not arrive overnight. They are cultivated slowly, through curiosity, practice, and patience. You build cultural wisdom by reading, traveling, listening, and respecting difference. You build compassion by practicing presence, humility, and patience in daily interactions. You build joy by choosing humor over bitterness, gratitude over complaint. Over time, these practices shape not just how others see you but how you see yourself. You become someone who carries depth in conversation, warmth in connection, and joy in presence. That combination is magnetic in the truest sense. It is not loud, it is not flashy, and yet it is unforgettable. It is the kind of attraction that lasts long after the first impression fades. Because it is rooted in character, not performance. Self-care is often misunderstood in modern culture as indulgence or luxury. But in reality, it is one of the clearest signals of self-respect. It is not about expensive spa treatments or retreat vacations. Though those can have their place, it is about the consistent, everyday commitment to taking care of your body, your mind, and your emotional balance. When someone practices self-care in this deeper sense, they communicate without words that they value themselves. And that quiet signal naturally draws respect from others. People notice when you have the energy to be present, when you take pride in maintaining your health, and when you carry yourself with balance. Conversely, people also notice when you consistently neglect yourself, when your stress spills over into every conversation, or when your lack of rest leaves you irritable and drained. True self-care begins with the basics: sleep, nutrition, movement, and rest. These are not glamorous practices, but they are foundational. A person who consistently gets enough sleep shows up to work or to social gatherings more alert and stable. Someone who nourishes their body with real food radiates energy and health in subtle ways. Even the simple habit of regular exercise, whether it's walking, stretching, or more intense activity, makes a difference not just in how you look but in how you carry yourself. You do not need to announce these habits, people sense them. They see it in your posture, in the clarity of your skin, in the steadiness of your mood. Beyond the physical, self-care includes mental and emotional hygiene. Many people live with constant stress, anxiety, and distraction without ever giving themselves space to process or reset. Self-care here means creating routines that keep your mind grounded, journaling to clarify your thoughts, meditating to calm your nervous system, or simply unplugging from devices for a while to reclaim your attention. It also means setting boundaries. A person who respects their own limits, who says no when they're overcommitted, who steps back when they need to recharge, shows a kind of maturity that is deeply attractive. They are less likely to burn out or lash out, because they have built a system that sustains them. Consider how this plays out in everyday life. A manager who neglects self-care may work long hours, skip meals, and sacrifice sleep. At first, they might appear dedicated, but over time they become irritable, forgetful, and hard to be around. Their team loses trust, because their leader is unstable. Compare that with a manager who prioritizes self-care. They leave work at a reasonable time. They show up refreshed. They maintain composure under stress. That steadiness becomes a foundation for their team. Self-care, far from being selfish, becomes an act of service because it allows you to show up for others without resentment or exhaustion. Self-care also extends to emotional regulation. People who take care of their inner world tend to respond rather than react. They know how to breathe before speaking, how to pause before sending an angry email, how to recognize when they are too tired to make a good decision. These small choices accumulate into a reputation. This is someone who can be trusted in difficult situations. That reputation is a form of silent attractiveness. People want to be around those who maintain balance, because balance is contagious. Closely tied to self-care is emotional intelligence and social awareness. If self-care is the foundation of respecting yourself, emotional intelligence is the practice of respecting others. Emotional intelligence means recognizing, understanding, and managing your own emotions, as well as recognizing and responding appropriately to the emotions of others. Social awareness is the ability to pick up on cues in your environment, tone of voice, body language, group dynamics, and adjusting your behavior accordingly. Together, these abilities form the core of what makes someone not only silently attractive but also deeply influential. Many people mistake intelligence for book smarts or technical skill, but countless studies and experiences show that what makes people effective in life and leadership is emotional intelligence. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you cannot control your temper, if you cannot listen without interrupting, if you cannot sense when someone is uncomfortable, your intelligence loses its power. By contrast, someone with average knowledge but high emotional intelligence often thrives because people enjoy working with them and trust them. Practical examples of emotional intelligence are everywhere. In a heated meeting, one person may dominate, raise their voice, and shut down others. Another notices the tension, lowers their tone, and invites quieter colleagues to share. That second person shifts the entire energy of the room. They may not have said much, but their awareness and restraint made them magnetic. Or think of a friend who knows when to crack a joke to lighten the mood, and when to sit in silence and let you cry. That ability to read the moment is rare, and people cherish it because it makes them feel understood. Social awareness also involves timing. Knowing when to speak up and when to step back is an art. Some people push their opinions constantly, needing to be heard. Others withdraw completely, afraid to contribute. The socially aware person navigates the middle ground. They observe before acting, sense when their voice will add value, and when it is better to listen. In Marcus Aurelius's words, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." In practice, this means embodying calm presence rather than debating it. Emotional intelligence is not about proving you are empathetic. It is about living it so consistently that others feel it naturally. Both self-care and emotional intelligence reinforce each other. When you take care of yourself, you have the energy and clarity to tune into others. When you understand others, you build relationships that in turn support your well-being. It becomes a cycle of strength. Neglect one, and the other suffers. A burned-out person struggles to be emotionally intelligent, and someone constantly consumed by drama often neglects their own care. But when both are cultivated, they create a presence that feels unshakable. Imagine a nurse in a busy hospital. If they neglect self-care, they may snap at patients, forget details, or collapse under pressure. But if they rest, eat, and manage their stress, they can bring calmness to their patients. Combine that with emotional intelligence, sensing when a patient needs reassurance, when a family member needs silence, when a doctor needs quick clarity, and you have someone who is not just competent but deeply respected. Their magnetism comes not from shouting or demanding attention, but from the quiet confidence of being whole and aware. The same applies in personal relationships. A partner who practices self-care is less likely to project their exhaustion or insecurity onto the relationship. A partner with emotional intelligence can sense when their loved one needs space versus comfort. Together, these habits create relationships built on stability and trust rather than dependency and chaos. That stability is attractive in a way no physical feature can match. It makes people feel safe, and safety is one of the strongest forms of attraction. Ultimately, self-care and emotional intelligence are not optional add-ons, they are signs of maturity. They show that you are not only capable of managing yourself but also capable of being a steady presence for others. People are drawn to those who can carry both themselves and a portion of the burdens of those around them. That draw does not come from loud gestures but from quiet consistency. In a noisy world, the person who is balanced within and sensitive without stands out. They are the ones others trust, the ones people turn to in crisis, and the ones whose presence lingers long after they leave the room. That is the essence of silent attractiveness in its mature form. Respect for self and respect for others woven seamlessly into daily life. Consistency and reliability are often overlooked in conversations about attraction because they lack the glamour of charisma or the flashiness of charm. But they are the backbone of lasting respect. People might initially be impressed by looks, wealth, or humor, but over time what keeps admiration alive is whether someone can be counted on. In every area of life, from friendships to work to family, people crave stability. Especially in a world that feels increasingly unpredictable. When you consistently do what you say you will do, when your actions match your words day after day, you send a powerful message: you can be trusted. That trust is magnetic. It is not loud or dramatic, but it creates an invisible pull that people feel instinctively. Reliability does not mean perfection. Everyone makes mistakes, and everyone occasionally fails to follow through. What defines reliability is the pattern over time. Do you show up when it matters most? Do people know they can depend on you in both small and big ways? A friend who is always there when you need help moving. A colleague who never misses a deadline. A partner who keeps their word even in difficult times. These are the people we remember and cherish. Contrast that with someone who is inconsistent. They cancel plans at the last minute. They promise but rarely deliver. They swing between enthusiasm and neglect. That kind of instability erodes trust. And without trust, attraction fades. Consistency also means emotional steadiness. In a room full of chaos, the person who stays calm becomes the anchor everyone looks to. This doesn't mean being emotionless, it means being centered. Think of situations where tensions run high, like a family argument or a workplace crisis. Some people escalate the chaos by reacting impulsively. Others breathe, assess, and respond thoughtfully. The latter person becomes a source of comfort, someone whose presence reduces anxiety instead of amplifying it. That is silent attractiveness in action. Without needing to dominate or control, their steadiness reassures everyone around them. A relatable example can be found in sports. Fans admire not only the athlete who scores spectacular goals but also the player who shows up to practice every day, plays with discipline, and can be counted on in critical moments. Coaches often emphasize that talent wins games, but consistency wins championships. The same principle applies in everyday life. Anyone can shine occasionally, but the ones who build a legacy are those who keep showing up with reliability. Consistency is also closely tied to integrity. when your actions are aligned with your values, and when your behavior is not swayed by trends or pressures. People know who you are. Marcus Aurelius wrote that it is not enough to argue what a good man should be. One must simply be one. Living with consistency is embodying that advice. It is refusing to change your principles just to fit in or to gain short-term approval. When others see that your kindness today will be your kindness tomorrow, that your respect in private matches your respect in public, they cannot help but admire it. Now, when we look back at the 11 habits together, consistency and reliability act like the thread that ties them all. Independence gives you strength, elegance gives you grace, sophistication makes you memorable, presence makes you trustworthy, mystery keeps you intriguing, wisdom gives you depth, compassion gives you warmth, laughter makes you joyful, self-care makes you grounded, and emotional intelligence makes you aware. But without consistency, all of these qualities remain fragile. What good is compassion if it is only shown occasionally? What good is wisdom if you apply it one day and ignore it the next? Consistency ensures that the habits form a coherent whole rather than scattered moments of virtue. The journey of silent attractiveness is not about mastering a single trait but weaving them into a life that others can feel is steady, meaningful, and authentic. Each habit builds upon the others, and together they form a kind of character architecture. Independence prevents you from being needy. Elegance shapes your presence. Sophistication sharpens your details. Presence deepens your connections. Mystery enriches your depth. Wisdom expands your perspective. Compassion warms your relationships. Laughter lifts your spirit. Self-care sustains your energy. Emotional intelligence refines your interactions. And consistency locks it all into place. It is like building a house. The first 10 habits are the structure, but consistency is the foundation that keeps it standing through storms. One of the most important lessons here is that silent attractiveness is not something to chase. If you try to manufacture it by copying behaviors superficially, it will come across as fake. If you try to impress people by appearing mysterious or elegant without the underlying substance, people will sense the emptiness. Silent attractiveness emerges when these habits are cultivated sincerely over time. It grows quietly as you learn to respect yourself, care for your body and mind, listen deeply, connect authentically, and act with reliability. It is not about performance but about being. Think of someone you admire deeply. Chances are it's not because they impressed you with a single flashy moment but because they showed a pattern of character over time. A mentor who guided you consistently. A friend who always stood by your side. A leader who remained calm under pressure. These are the people who inspire us most. And often, they never set out to impress anyone. Their goal was to live with integrity and steadiness. And the inspiration followed naturally. The final takeaway is that when you stop trying to impress, you start to inspire. Impressing others is about chasing validation, often leaving you exhausted and dependent on their reactions. Inspiring others is about living authentically and consistently, allowing your life itself to speak louder than your words. People admire the one who does not need applause to do what is right, who does not shift their values based on trends, who does not crumble under stress. That is the kind of presence that endures. Silent attractiveness, then, is not a trick or a mask. It is the natural outcome of aligning your life with these habits and maintaining them with reliability. Over time, the combination creates a person who draws others in not by demanding attention but by offering stability, depth, and authenticity. It begins with independence, grows through wisdom and compassion, and matures into consistency. And once you embody that, you realize the truth. Attraction was never about noise. It was about the quiet power of living well. When others encounter that, they are not just impressed, they are inspired. So here we are, at the end of this journey through the 11 habits of silent attractiveness. Think back to where we began. The idea that someone can walk into a room and shift the atmosphere without saying a word. Now you know why that happens. It's not magic, and it's not manipulation. It's the result of living with integrity, practicing refinement, showing compassion, embodying presence, and above all, being consistent in who you are. We've talked about independence, about elegance, about sophistication in the details. We've explored the beauty of presence, the allure of mystery, and the richness of cultural wisdom. We've seen how compassion changes not just relationships but entire environments, how laughter turns pain into strength, and how self-care grounds you so you can stand tall. We've unpacked the power of emotional intelligence, the importance of reliability, and how all these habits weave together into something larger than themselves. What we're left with is not just a list of habits, but a way of life, a path toward becoming someone who doesn't need to demand attention, because attention naturally finds them. But here's the most important truth: silent attractiveness is not about others at all. It is about you. It is about how you choose to live when no one is watching. It is about the respect you give yourself when you decide to sleep instead of scrolling endlessly, to listen instead of interrupting, to hold your ground instead of chasing approval. It is about the quiet choices, repeated daily, that form character, and that character is what people feel. You don't need to fake this. You don't need to try too hard. You don't need to impress. You need to align with your best self and let that alignment radiate outward. When you stop trying to impress, you start to inspire, and inspiration lasts far longer than impression. Impression fades the moment the spotlight moves on. Inspiration lives in the memory, in the way someone felt when they were around you, in the lessons they carry forward because of how you lived. So my challenge to you is this: take one of these habits and start practicing it today. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Pick one, whether it's being fully present in your conversations, practicing compassion, or simply keeping one small promise to yourself, and do it. Then repeat it tomorrow, and the next day, until it becomes who you are. That's how silent attractiveness grows, not in one grand gesture, but in the steady rhythm of daily practice. And as we close, let me remind you again, this channel exists because of you. If you found value here, if this exploration gave you something to think about, something to work on, or simply a moment of calm in your day, please show your support. Hit like so others can discover this video. Subscribe so you stay connected to future explorations of philosophy and life. And if you feel moved to contribute, please consider using the super thanks button below. Your support helps me create deeper, longer, and more meaningful content that isn't about noise but about real growth. This is more than just a video. It's part of a larger conversation about how to live well in a world that often forgets what living well means. By supporting, sharing, and engaging, you're not just helping me, you're helping spread a way of thinking that prioritizes authenticity over performance, depth over distraction, and wisdom over noise. As you leave this video and return to your life, remember, silent attractiveness isn't something you perform, it's something you become. It is cultivated in solitude and revealed in presence. It is carried in the way you walk, the way you listen, the way you keep your word, and the world desperately needs more of it. So go out there and live these habits. Be the calm in the storm, the depth in the shallow, the joy in the heavy. People will notice, they will feel it, and they will be inspired, even if they never say a word. And I'll leave you with this final reminder: when you stop trying to impress, you start to inspire. Thank you for spending this time with me. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you're able, support with a super thanks. Your presence here means more than you know. Until next time, keep living quietly, deeply, and authentically, because that is where true attraction lives.